Walmart immediately hinted that it would do the same. Basically, Amazon is the industry trendsetter. They're the Michael Jackson of shipping. They're the best at what they do, everyone tries to imitate them, and nobody who learns a third thing about them is happy that they did. Because the conditions in their warehouses are not nearly as fun as their ads like to suggest. They can be physically draining, as this seasonal worker in his 70s will tell you.
I had a scanner in my hand, and the scanner would tell me to go pick up a box of Oreo cookies. And the purple section, I would go there, and then I'd get another scan, go pick up some STP oil. And the green section, which is the opposite side of the warehouse, which the warehouse is 2 football fields or 3 football fields. So I would end up on a 10-hour shift walking 15 to 17 miles a day.
Yeah, and watching that might stick in your head the next time that you're sitting there ordering next day delivery of Oreos. Do you really need them that fast? Probably not, right? How about a 72-pack of Tide Pods? Again, I'd argue no. What about this costume that makes your cat look like a sharpshooter? Well, here it does get more complicated, doesn't it? Your cat could be a little cowboy, then you could call him Butch Cassidy, and you might want that to happen as soon as possible. It's not an emergency, no, but it's also not unimportant. And if you're thinking, well, that sounds tough, but maybe that job just wasn't for that man, you should know the rate at which Amazon has workers pick items can exhaust workers of any age.
Pickers like Stephen Abadili walk 15 miles or more each day to retrieve as many as 200 items an hour. A handheld device dictates every move and counts down tasks to the second.
I would say I need to be in aisle 54, get this item, and then suddenly you're going to aisle 72, and you have 10 seconds.
Abadili struggled to keep up, and like many, was eventually let go.
I would get out of work, get home, and sit on the couch, and my body would just quit on me right then.
You're a guy in your early 20s.
Yeah.
And you're still wiped out.
I was dead at the end of the day.
Look, no one should be in their prime in the morning and then dead at the end of the day, unless they are a mayfly. And mayflies are just not spending their one day on Earth in an Amazon warehouse, because of course they're not. They know the precious value of time. They're spending their day doing a mountain of cocaine and fucking. Hashtag live fast, die fast. Hashtag YOLO. By many accounts, Amazon operates at a relentless pace. And as one YouTuber who's worked in an Amazon warehouse will tell you, even when they offer a reward system, the incentives can be a bit of a slap in the face.
They would be like, everyone's rates are really, really low and we need to get these up. So we're going to have a power hour where you guys have to push and push and push as hard as you can. And the winner gets a prize for pushing and pushing through the pain and all that. Guess what the damn prize was? A $10 gift card to In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah, I get why that was annoying. Because you know what's better than a $10 gift card to In-N-Out Burger? Just $10. It's like an In-N-Out gift card, but it can be used for things that don't come animal style. Plus, over the years, Amazon has faced criticism from workers over their willingness to accommodate basic human needs, like using the bathroom. 7 lawsuits have been... have been filed against them by pregnant workers who say they were refused longer bathroom breaks and fewer continuous hours on their feet. Now, legally, here is where I have to tell you that Amazon says it's accommodated thousands of pregnant associates, and more generally, they say associates are allowed to use the toilet whenever needed. But that simply doesn't square with many accounts from workers, both in news reports and many first-person testimonials on YouTube.
If you go to the bathroom during your break, you're going to have to wait in line, and you're not going to make your numbers for that period, and you're going to have someone come and talk to you.
If you're far away from the bathroom, it's going to take you a long time just to get there, use it, and get back. Now your rate has plummeted.
Unless you really, really, really have to, just hold it until you have your lunch break, because it will mess up your rate and they will find any excuse to fire you.
And that's just not a good system for multiple reasons, including the fact that when people shorten their time in the bathroom, they don't shorten the bathroom part, they shorten the hand-washing part. So the next time you order something online, it's probably safe to assume it's been packed by urine-soaked hands. And if you're thinking it can seem like Amazon barely sees their workers as human, you're not alone. Just watch this interviewer have that exact thought in real time.
The number of items they pick per hour, the number of steps they take, it's measured. And when they're not as productive as their colleagues, they're put on alert. There's a line of other people in a lot of these communities waiting to take jobs.
They're almost like robots, except they're obviously human beings.
Yeah. I could honestly watch that guy figure out what things are almost like. For hours, giraffes are almost like horses, except they're obviously stretchier. Amazon is rolling out more and more robots in its warehouses, increasingly working side by side with humans, a relationship which isn't always seamless.
An automated machine like this one, used by Amazon to move merchandise, accidentally punctured a can of bear repellent.
There's going to be multiple victims vomiting and feeling ill.
The toxic bear spray got into the building's air vents. More than 50 workers complained about trouble breathing and a burning sensation in their eyes and throats.
Yeah, the workers were bear-maced by a robot. And Amazon says they've now changed how bear repellent is stored, which is frankly just as well, because their workers have been bear-maced more than once. In 2015, a Texas fire department responded to an emergency caused by a robot running over a can of bear repellent. So, in 50 years' time, when humanity is caught in the crossfire of the great bear versus robot war, remember, robots fired the first shot and they fired twice. And it's not just exhaustion or the potential of being bear-maced. Reports have found numerous cases of Amazon workers suffering from workplace accidents or injuries, which isn't even surprising. Remember, this is a physically demanding job. And you might hope that a labour union could step in to push for more protections, but Amazon has actively fought against that happening, even producing a union-busting training video for managers, which leaked onto the internet last fall.
We are not anti-union, but we are not neutral either. We will boldly defend our direct relationship with associates as best for the associate, the business, and our shareholders. We do not believe unions are in the best interest of our customers, our shareholders, or most importantly, our associates. Our business model is built upon speed, innovation, and customer obsession, things that are generally not associated with unions.
Yeah. Customer obsession is not generally associated with unions because it's a very creepy phrase. And not one that I really want to be associated with any brand, much less one that is so desperate to put fucking microphones inside my house. The more you look at Amazon, the more you realise that its convenience comes with a real cost. Because think about it, we used to have to drive to stores to buy things. Now those things are brought directly to us and they're somehow cheaper. That didn't just happen with a clever algorithm. It happened by creating a system that squeezes the people lowest on the ladder hard. And all the while, the man behind Amazon is now worth $118 billion, more than anyone else in the world. He is so rich, he seems to actually think that this is a reasonable answer to a question about what he plans to do with his personal wealth.
The only way that I can see to deploy this much financial resource is by converting my Amazon winnings into space travel.
Okay, so first, $118 billion is not anybody's winnings. It is a computer error in capitalism. But it is true, Bezos is spending $1 billion a year on his personal space exploration company, Blue Origin. And I'm not saying that billionaires playing space games is a Freudian issue. Anyone can talk about how rockets look like dicks. I will just say, this is his actual rocket, which looks even more like a dick than you expected it to. It has a head. And even at $1 billion a year, that's just a drop in the bucket of a fortune that Bezos can't seem to figure out how to spend. Meanwhile, some of his employees seem to be working themselves to exhaustion. Amazon has driven the whole warehouse industry to move constantly faster and faster on already low margins. And sure, the fact that it pays at least $15 an hour is nice, but raising workers' wages is only part of the equation here. Making sure these jobs are safe and that the pace is sustainable is critical too. And if Bezos has enough money to fund his space dicks in perpetuity, it isn't a question of whether he can improve working conditions for his employees. It's just a question of if he wants to. And if he doesn't want to, at the very least, Amazon should present a more realistic picture of what their promises cost the workers who make it all happen.
Have you ever wondered how Amazon gets your packages to you so quickly? We do it with two things: amazing technology and amazing people. Every day, thousands of items arrive and Sean goes to find them. Tell us about yourself, Sean.
I pick up products, and I'm a horrible dancer.
Oh, that's fun. Can we see some moves?
Oh, I've already walked 12 miles today.
I said dance. Ah, fuck! Shit! Shit moves! Oh, and that's Ryan. He moves items around the fulfillment center.
I don't have time to go to the bathroom, so I'm just gonna stand here and wet myself.
Good for you, Ryan.
All right. Can't do it while you watch.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Seriously.
Lisa here packs your stuff into boxes, don't you, Lisa?
Can't talk now. I'm running behind on my units per hour.
Oh, it's okay. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I'm a mom. Got two kids. I don't see them as much as I like.
Nobody cares about your kids, Lisa. You're falling behind. Shit. Faster, faster, faster. Fuck you. No, fuck you. The slam machine weighs, scans your box, and attaches a label all in like 1 second. And this is Alberto.
Well, my friends call me Al. And I gotta say, I really think a union would help address some of the systemic problems that we're having.
Bear spray. Jesus Christ. And finally, Jackie hugs every box.
No, I don't.
Oh, maybe just this one?
Okay.
Because a lot of people want this job.
Okay.
One day, a robot will hug boxes, and we'll be done with this whole charade.
Yeah, I get it.
But until then, hug the box, Jackie.
Okay,
Good, now kiss it.
I don't want to.
I said kiss the box. Every day, hundreds of thousands of packages are shipped to your front door, and that's all because of our amazing associates. Happy Prime Day, everyone.
Happy Prime Day.
Bear spray!
Hey, what's up, Sean?
Amazon. Try not to think about it.
Public shaming, or as we call it in England, parenting. Thanks to the internet, it has never been easier to pile onto a public shaming. In fact, it's now one of America's favorite pastimes.
A Wisconsin family photo shoot's gone viral, and now it's sparking some outrage online.
A viral video leads to outrage on Long Island. Now the outrage over another viral video. The outrage machine never seems to rest. As actress Sarah Michelle Gellar found out, some people online are just looking for an excuse to be angry.
Wait, what did Sarah Michelle Gellar do? I'm already so angry about it. Actually, don't tell me. I just realised I definitely don't care. The point is, this is a golden age of internet shaming, and you've probably participated in it if you've ever been mad at a potential Oscar host with shitty tweets, a company who made a blackface shirt, a beloved Irish actor who wanted to commit a racist murder, an aquarium that called an otter thick, a gender reveal party that started a wildfire, whoever attacked Jussie Smollett, whoever didn't believe Jussie Smollett, and finally, Jussie Smollett. We're basically goldfish, except instead of discovering a new castle in our bowl every 9 seconds, we find something new to be outraged about online. And you may be expecting me to say that all public shaming is bad, but I don't actually think that. When it's well directed, a lot of good can come out of it. If someone's caught doing something racist or a powerful person is behaving badly, it can increase accountability. In fact, just this week, it emerged that Tucker Carlson, the answer to the question, what if the sound thud grew a face? I said some awful things on a radio show a few years prior. To hear Tux tell it, that meant he was unfairly caught up in public shaming.
The great American outrage machine is a remarkable thing. One day you're having dinner with your family, imagining everything is fine. The next, your phone is exploding with calls from reporters.
Okay, first of all, no one having dinner with Tucker Carlson has ever imagined everything was fine. Most people's answer to the question, if you could have dinner with anyone living or dead, is Tucker Carlson dead. And And if you look into why Tucker was caught in that outrage machine, it's because he publicly called the Iraqis semi-literate primitive monkeys, compared women to dogs, and basically said that Warren Jeffs, who was serving a life sentence for the sexual assault of his underage brides, wasn't that bad. Now, Tucker refused to apologise, and all week long they've been trending hashtags like boycott Tucker Carlson and fire Tucker Carlson and Tucker Carlson fucks his Roomba. That one wasn't technically trending, but I have this weird feeling that it will be in 20 minutes or so. I would argue that Tucker is actually a good example of an internet pylon being merited. He's a public figure. He made his comments publicly. They are appalling, and he's standing by them. But clearly, it's not always that simple. Because when misdirected, internet pylons can completely destroy people's lives. So tonight, let's try and talk about the power of public shaming. Because often, it is not a famous figure who's on the receiving end of it. On a seemingly daily basis, ordinary people who did not ask for attention can get sucked into the spotlight, like this woman did a few years ago.
They're calling her the aunt from hell and the Antichrist.
An aunt filed suit against her 12-year-old nephew. She claims she broke her wrist when he jumped into her arms. She sued her young nephew for $127,000. That's right, $127,000 over a hug.
The aunt's defense was that when she goes to a cocktail party now, she actually said this, was that she finds it very difficult to hold the plate when the hors d'oeuvres are passed because of her wrist.
Well, that sounds terrible. Although, I will say this. I know this isn't the point, but everyone finds it very difficult to hold an hors d'oeuvre plate. You have a plate in one hand, a glass of wine in the other. How do you eat? Do you grab food off the plate with your teeth like some kind of trained horse? Do you hold the wine in your armpit while you grab food with your other hand and then spend the rest of the night drinking armpit wine? It's an unsolvable puzzle. But look, it is pretty shitty to force a 12-year-old boy to pay 6 figures for hugging you too enthusiastically, which is, of course, why she didn't actually do that. The real story is much more complicated. Very basically, her health insurance did not cover all her massive medical bills, so to cover her costs, her best option was to go through her relative's homeowner's insurance. But to do that, she had to name a person in a lawsuit, even though the kid and his family were completely fine with it, and they would not be required to pay. She actually went on the Today Show to explain all of this after the story blew up. Unfortunately, it didn't seem to undo the damage, maybe because, even while she was discussing the actual facts, the Today Show's graphics read, "Worst aunt ever speaks out," which doesn't really help, does it? Meanwhile, she was being relentlessly attacked all over the internet, meaning anyone Googling her in the future would likely be inundated by the inaccurate version of that story, which, as she will tell you, became a real problem when she was looking for work.
It was very difficult to find another job. People reached out and then canceled interviews or then said, oh, we've changed our direction. Had to take certain measures in order to reestablish myself. And I have a refreshed identity.
That's a pretty drastic measure to have to take. So to help her move past this, if you do talk about the show tonight, remember to tag it with the hashtag #JustANormalAunt, hashtag aunts from not hell, hashtag Tucker Carlson fucks his broom. And look, there was every reason for her to believe that refreshing her identity was necessary, because fully 2 months after she went on TV to correct the record, Fox News was having this discussion.
Listen, hashtag worst aunt ever. But I will tell you that she did then come on to one of the media outlets and say that she was injured, obviously, and wanted to sue her homeowners association, but or homeowners insurance, and had to name him as the party and felt bad about it.
By the way, she fell because he was so excited to see her. He jumped up in her arms.
Auntie Jen, I love you. I love you.
What are you doing there? This is the worst aunt ever. But in all seriousness, she legally did the only thing that she could have done and feels great remorse about it. But the important thing here is she's the worst aunt ever, and Now, I'm not saying those television personalities are all terrible people. They just want to fill time more than they want to say things that are true. But at some point, it's incumbent on everyone to consider both context and consequences if you're going to pile on in a shaming. And I'm not saying that anything here is easy. For instance, did I just publicly shame that lawyer in the last clip? Yeah, I probably did. And honestly, I'm absolutely fine with that. Just as I'm fine with calling him a human popped collar, whose every facial expression says, I only wish Green Book had won more Oscars. And look, let's be honest. We make fun of people constantly on this show. It's a comedy show. Although, for what it is worth, we do think, probably more carefully than you might imagine, about who we're making fun of, why we're doing it, and how. We ask ourselves questions all the time, like, should we use their name? How much power do they have? And do they have a soul patch? That last one can be a real deal breaker. And I'm not saying that we're perfect at all. You might disagree with choices that we've made, but we've honestly thought about it. And sometimes the decision does get difficult. Just look at another major scandal that broke this week concerning fraud in college admissions.
Actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin among 33 wealthy parents accused of bribing coaches and administrators to get their kids into elite universities.
Loughlin and her husband, Massimo Gianelli, allegedly put up $500,000 in exchange for getting their two daughters recruited to the USC crew team, even though they did not participate in crew.
Okay, that is such a weird story. I don't think anyone guessed that the next big celebrity scandal would be Aunt Becky from Full House allegedly spends $500,000 so a guy will pretend her daughters are good at boats. And incidentally, if that's all true, worst aunts ever. Now, I've got no problem. The truth is, I've got no problem making fun of the parents accused of doing that, or the guy who ran that service. Where it gets more complicated is with the kids. How much is it fair to make fun of them? Well, I would argue that one of them, Olivia Jade, is a public figure. She has nearly 1.5 million followers on Instagram and has worked with all these companies. She's actively made money off her brand as a fun, relatable college student, releasing videos like this.
I don't know how much of school I'm going to attend, but I do want the experience of like game days, partying. I don't really care about school, as you guys all know.
Okay, so even before what we learned this week, that was a little tone deaf, although not quite as tone deaf as this sponsored post that she made for Amazon, in which she's decorated her dorm room at USC with the letters OJ. And if you don't see a connection between the letters OJ and USC, maybe it should cost $500,000 to get you in there. Now, I'm comfortable making those jokes. Am I comfortable with the whole internet piling on her? Honestly, that kind of depends on how and for how long. If it's death threats and vile comments, then of course not. If it defines her forever, that seems unfair. The window for making fun of her is probably closing, although I will say it should stay open just long enough for me to tell you one person went to her Sephora makeup product page and left a 1-star review reading, I thought this would give me the just came from crew practice, spent hours rowing on the lake flow, turns out it was all a scam. Because that was excellent. That is the difficult thing here. When joining in a pylon, there is a lot to take into account, and when millions of people all feel the need to weigh in and do it potentially for years, the punishment can be vastly disproportionate to the offence. And perhaps the best example of this is Monica Lewinsky. 2 decades ago, this country put her through hell, as she will be the first to tell you.
Overnight, I went from being a completely private figure to a publicly humiliated one worldwide. I was patient zero of losing a personal reputation on a global scale almost instantaneously.
Wow, that has to be terrifying, although in fairness, almost everything is scary when you add the phrase on a global scale. If I said Karen's ophthalmologist says she's going to need reading glasses on a global scale, you would rightly think, what the fuck is going on with Karen's eyes? But look, she's not wrong. And if you are hazy on the Monica Lewinsky story, at 22, she and President Clinton began a relationship that, very long story short, ended up with graphic details being made public through the report by independent counsel Kenneth Starr. And it is impossible to overstate just how globally famous Monica and private details of her life became. The media obsessed over every angle of her story, from tabloid stories like these, to cartoons where microphones pointed at her face were replaced with penises, to endless late-night comedy jokes. Look, my hands are not clean here either. I wasn't in the US at the time, but 10 years after the fact, I was in a Daily Show piece marking the 10th anniversary of the scandal above a graphic reading 10 sucking years, which is gross. It's gross. And many comedians have since publicly expressed regret about things they said, although one who hasn't, and who was among the most relentless, was Jay Leno.
Well, let's see what's going on with Monica, or as President Clinton called her, my little humidor.
1 million samples of DNA. They said it is the largest collection of DNA in the world, not counting Monica Lewinsky's closet. And the humidity, man, I'll tell you, people's clothes are stickier than Monica Lewinsky's. Man, it was just... Yeah, you can't get away without at least one of these. Lewinsky back on her feet. All right, ladies and gentlemen. And the Grammy for Best Organ Recital went to Monica Lewinsky, ladies and gentlemen.
Those jokes have not dated well in any sense of the word. And they're pretty rough, especially coming from a guy who just this week complained about late night TV, saying he'd like to see a bit of civility come back. You know, like that time that he did a bit with a fake book about Lewinsky titled The Slut in the Hat. And if that's what he means by civility, may I offer my new book, Oh, the Places You Can Go Fuck Yourself, Jay Leno. Look how simple this is. And given all of that, it's frankly a miracle that Lewinsky seems to have emerged with her sense of humor intact. Because when someone recently tweeted, I don't know who Monica Lewinsky is, she replied, I'm the chick from over 125 rap songs, which is both very funny and also technically true, because she's referenced in all these songs. We actually found 193 of them, and that is, and this may shock you, significantly more rap songs than have mentioned me. And to be honest, that kind of feels like a personal slight. You know what's an easy name to rhyme? John. I'll show you. Begone, Swan, Louis Vuitton, Beef Bourguignon. Lots of options there. You know what's also pretty tight rhyme-wise? Oliver. I don't want just a piece, I want Oliver, hitting all the spots that got missed like John Oliver. You can have that for free, rappers. You know what rhymes with Lewinsky? Almost nothing. But look, the point isn't that I should be in more rap songs, although I absolutely should. It's that Lewinsky went through absolute hell to get to the point where she could make that joke about being the woman from the rap songs. And it can be easy to forget just how ferocious and devastating the public attention was.
Hey, pal, get it going, Crawford.
I don't even know how to begin to describe what it was, but it was to see my face on TV, to read my name in the newspaper. People have no idea what this has done. What this has done, that behind the name Monica Lewinsky, there's a person and there is a family, and there has been so much pain that has been caused by all this, and it was so destructive. It was so destructive.
That's horrifying. And it's impossible to imagine how bad that was. But for a second, just try. Think of the dumbest thing you did when you were young. Not the dumbest thing you got caught doing. The dumbest thing you did. The thing you stole, or cheated on, or accidentally sexted. And again, I am sorry, Mom. Now imagine hearing about that every single day for decades on end. That's a little bit of what it was like to be Monica Lewinsky. And I know everything about the subject of public shaming is complicated. But Monica Lewinsky might actually be the perfect person to remind all of us what the consequences can be to a misdirected flood of public anger. And the reason I know this is that I sat down with Monica earlier this week, and this is what happened. 21 years ago, Monica Lewinsky was at the centre of a media frenzy. In recent years, she's re-emerged as a major voice on online shaming and anti-bullying initiatives. And she was kind enough to recently sit down with me in a fancy apartment that neither of us live in. So, in the last few years, you've been doing a lot of work related to bullying and people being shamed. Is it a problem that you think has gotten worse?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that with the advent of the internet and, of course, social media, we now have situations where it's exacerbated beyond, I think, what anybody could have imagined initially. And the anonymity that comes with that sort of unleashed these whole new personas for people.
Yeah, it's sad, doesn't it? Because if you have a chance to come up with a second persona, you decide to come up with one that's a fucking monster.
Yeah, exactly. How much of an asshole can I be?
Exactly.
Let me
I'm going to amplify every worst aspect of my personality by 100. Would you agree that somewhere on the spectrum of shame, there can be positive effects to it? I'm just thinking of people whose bad behavior hurts others and who might not change that behavior without public attention.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and we tend to look at it as this kind of like a binary question, right? Should we public shame or shouldn't we? I do think there's a spectrum of behavior on which we could kind of sort of judge as a society. Is this where shaming is effective to change social behavior, or is it damaging?
I mean, you were on the receiving end of one of the worst internet-fueled public shamings of all time, and hopefully, in a way, ever. How the fuck did you get through that?
Yeah, I don't actually know. Really? I mean, it was a shitstorm. It was an avalanche of pain and humiliation, and obviously I could not have gotten through it without my family. And eventually, when I was allowed to talk to my friends too. And I think at 24 years old, it was, really hard to hold on to a shred of dignity or self-esteem when, you're just the butt of so many jokes and being misunderstood.
Right. I mean, as everything escalated, all the reactions to it, what's it like to see this kind of character of yourself that has your face and name, but which bears less and less relevance to who you actually are?
Yeah, it was so bizarre. I mean, I say extraordinary, not with any positive connotation. And I think it was not only just the slut shaming, not only, having had an intimate relationship with someone who is now describing me in a way that was like no young woman would want to be described. Sure. There was just also my looks. I mean, I was very about the touch-ups and the makeup, because I'm like, part of my vanity now comes from just the wound of having been made fun of for my weight, for, people saying I was unattractive. And it was terrifying, not only because I was watching myself, or this version of myself, I'm running away from me. I mean, stolen. My identity was stolen in a different way. I mean, not to say that I wasn't flawed and, that I didn't make terrible mistakes or do stupid things or say stupid things, because of course I did, Right. So
every 22-year-old is some version of an idiot.
You just lost a lot of viewers.
That's true. That's true. Not you. Not whichever 22-year-old is listening now. Not you.
Not you. It's not like I was this, perfect angel, right? But I watched this sort of deconstruction of me and rebuilding of me. It's like a transformer almost.
Many victims of public shaming say it affects their ability to earn a living. Did that happen to you?
Oh, 150%. I mean, I couldn't get a job. It was interesting, because I went to graduate school in 2005 and graduated in 2006. And I thought, okay, now I will begin my life. I will now put being Monica Lewinsky behind me and move on to be so-and-so's employee. And when I couldn't find a job, either somebody offered me a job for the wrong reasons, like, oh, you'll be coming to our events, that's your job, and there's media there, or people saying to me, the opposite of, well, could you get a letter of indemnification from the Clintons? Like, because we rely on government money and Hillary might be president. So, I mean, there was this wide range of not being able to support myself and also have a purpose, which is equally important, to feel that you matter in some way.
Is it tough sometimes just to get through a typical day?
Whatever your question is, the answer is yes. Yes, it is tough anytime. Sorry.
No, that's probably a fair response to basically most of the things here. Is it tough, though, sometimes just to get through a typical day without having to deal with this shit? Because the ubiquity of references to you is incredible.
Yeah, it's insane. I think, and in part, a lot of that happened because of this, sexist really thing that happened, which is that the scandal was named after me, became named after me. So it meant that any time that this has been referenced every single day in the past 20 years. So it may not be a direct reference to me, but because the investigation and the scandal has my name, I'm then therefore attached to it.
Did you ever consider changing your name?
There were several reasons I didn't. I mean, first of all, I don't think that it really would have even worked. Like, when I was job hunting, people even suggested, why don't